Hey, today's video will be about aspects in astrology, and I will touch upon the critical degrees. I have mentioned in some of my previous videos that no planet is evil in itself, but their ever-changing aspects and angles they form with each other, they tend to make their influences and vibrations good or bad, positive or challenging, or contracting or expansive. The aspects of hard, chronic, or challenging importance are square, parallel, opposition, and conjunctions between malefics. Positive aspects are trines and sextiles, and the most fortunate aspect that can be formed between the planets are when Jupiter trines or sextiles Venus, and also the conjunction and parallel between planets which are in harmony with each other. Of course, there are other aspects, but today I will not be speaking of them. I would like to mention a stellium aspect pattern which I encounter a lot. Now this is an overcargo of planets in one house. For some it is 3 planets, for others over 3 planets. Now they have to be in conjunction in the same house, so it is a cluster of planets that conjunct each other. If they're not conjunct, it is not exactly aspect pattern, but there's still an important point in a chart. Now, these planets can be afflicted if malefics play a role in it, if intercepted, or if the stellium is overloaded and troubled with challenging aspects. Some consider a stellium as an affliction in the chart because it causes some imbalance and it is an overwhelming point in the chart. Of course, if the stellium has only harmonious aspects, then that should be good, right? Not exactly. Stelliums are considered both gifted and stressful at the same time, regardless of aspects. There could be unexpected planets in a chart too. Now these planets might work separately from the chart and it may seem as they have no channel to grow or express fittingly. Placements still express in relation to each other, but with unexpected planets it just may seem a little harder to make that connection. Each planet as well as each house has its ruler, and that ruler is somewhere in the chart. So rulers will tell us everything we need to know. The 120 degrees aspect between the planets and one of the fortunate aspects for overall harmony is called a trine. Depending on the involved planets, an orb between 5 and 10 degrees is allowed. The 60-degree aspect is called a sextile and is also considered fortunate to a lesser degree, and it is most often connected with opportunities which require more effort, and an orb of 3 to 4 degrees is allowed, depending on the involved planets. An orb from 0 degree to, well, it can go up to 10 degrees is considered a conjunction. If neither sun or moon are involved, an orb of maximum 8 degrees is allowed. Conjunctions are, according to some, considered to be the most powerful aspect as they mutually intensify the effects of the involved planets. Opposition is an angle of 180 degrees, and the allowed orb, depending on the planets, is between 5 to 10 degrees. Oppositions are considered to be the second most powerful aspect as it resembles the conjunction, but it is not unifying. Opposition is essentially relational. A square is an angle of 90 degrees, and depending on the planets involved, allowed orb is between 5 and 10 degrees. Now, squares create a strong and usable tension involving an opportunity at a cost. I am also including a parallel aspect in this video, mostly because I use it. So parallel, which may not be so commonly used, and it can be treated almost as in conjunction, but it is not, and it does not have the same effect. Two planets are in parallel aspect when they have the same declination, and this can be interpreted as the movements of the planets north and south of the celestial equator, or it is an angular distance from the planet to the celestial equator. So if two planets have the same declination north or south of the equator and are close to each other by value, it is a parallel. The usual orb is 1 degree, but this can be increased by a couple of minutes. Now let me share a couple of keywords which can be associated with aspects between some of the planets. So sun, sextile, or trine another planet could indicate that the sun is vital, dignified, adventurous, and authoritative. Sun square or opposition another planet could indicate laziness, lack of ambition, being oppressive, and a timid personality. Mercury sextile or trine another planet could indicate a versatile, eloquent, and dexterous person, while squares and oppositions might show forgetful, clumsy, restless, dishonest personality. Saturn trine or sextile another planet indicates deliberate, methodical, persevering, and thrifty Saturn, while squares in oppositions show materialistic, pessimistic, and obstructive and secretive Saturn. Jupiter trine or sextile other planets indicates optimistic, opulent, and benevolent Jupiter, while squares in oppositions may indicate procrastinating, dissipated, lawless, and wasteful Jupiter. And let's say Uranus, sextile or trine other planets indicates advanced, romantic, original, independent, and inventive Uranus, while squares in oppositions may show fanatical and irresponsible Uranus. Now let us talk about degrees. This is pretty easy to remember and it is quite important, so it must be taken into consideration. It is based upon the passage of the moon from the first degree of Aries throughout the 12 signs. It takes about 28 days for the moon to go around the zodiac. Daily motion is between 11.6 to 14.8 degrees per day, quicker at perigee and slower at apogee. But for the purposes of this video, let's say 13 degrees per day. So if we start with the first point of Aries and measure 1 day's travel, the second day will commence at the 13th degree, and the third at the 26th degree, and the fourth day commences at 9 degrees of Taurus, the fifth at the 21 degrees of Taurus. On the sixth day, moon reaches 4 degrees of Gemini. On the seventh day, moon starts at 17 degrees of Gemini and completes the first quarter by reaching the cusp of Cancer on the morning of the 8th day. Now we can see that the moon will strike the same degrees of the signs composing the other 3 quarters during the 3 weeks it takes the moon to complete the circuit. Thus the critical degrees can be pretty easy to establish and memorize. So in the cardinal signs of Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, the 1st, 13th, and 26th degrees are critical. In the fixed signs of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, the 9th and the 21st degrees are critical. And in the mutable signs of Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces, the 4th and 17th degrees are critical. It was noticed when the planet is found within orb of 3 degrees of one of these critical points, it indicates a much stronger influence in the life than it would otherwise. Now back to the aspects. One might wonder or notice that challenging aspects or influences are, so to say, almost always on time and very marked in their effect, while positive ones are barely noticed or do not have much influence. It must be understood that no one can get something for nothing, the same as one cannot create something out of nothing. It is said the stars help the man who helps himself. So the stars show tendencies. They mark the times when one should seize the opportunities, but they do not compel anyone to act in this or any other manner. Aspects, directions are lessons and experiences. For example, if Moon squares Mars, it will bring an opportunity to lose temper and get into trouble. And when the trouble passes, one might think, why did I act this way? And this is where astrology can help, as if one knows the effect of Moon square Mars, one may resolve this matter calmly and say to oneself, well, here is an opportunity for me to rule my stars. I am going to maintain my equilibrium and control my temper. Now, there still might be a struggle within, but on the outside, one may stay or appear calm. In this way, once the trouble is gone, victory is achieved and one has learned the lesson which was intended to be learned. Now, the same goes for any aspect. If we help our stars by learning the lessons, challenging aspects will not have the same power as they would otherwise. Finally, we are the dominant factor in our chart, and we can, by exercise of sufficient willpower, rule our stars. On the other hand, there is that question, why don't the positive aspects bring a corresponding measure of benefit? Well, it is easy, for the same lack of cooperation. It is necessary to help our stars in the direction as to hinder them in the other. One might want to start a business with another person and has Moon trine to the Sun and Venus is sitting in the 7th house. Now, one must be careful not to lay caution aside, as the other person may not be what one expected. Nothing is needed more than the common sense. For opportunities to flourish, we need to make adequate initial effort. And once we have done that, that positive aspect will make things go with relative ease as the stars are with us. If you want to know the power of aspects, transits, and so on, I like to use a physical ephemeris. I'm old school like that. Note the moon's aspects for the current month. So, for example, if the moon is in opposition to Mars, people might be lacking energy and ambition. And if there is a conjunction between Mars and the moon, people will be more active and energetic, but impulses will govern over common sense, so accomplishments may not be so great. If there is a trine between Moon and Mars, desire for doing something of a constructive nature will be prominent, and they will have success in such endeavors. And lastly, if the Moon squares Mars, people become irritable, destructive, and quarrelsome, unreasonable, and unmanageable. And this will be it for today. I do hope this was fairly easy to follow and you found it somewhat interesting. Today's quote is by Plato, his real name being Aristocles. Plato was a nickname, meaning roughly the broad, which is derived either from the width of his shoulders, which were the result of wrestling or training, or from the broadness of his intellect, or from the size of his forehead. He was a Greek philosopher of the classical period, born and died in Athens, Greece, author of philosophical works, a founder of academy, student of Socrates, and a teacher of Aristotle. And he said, "Perhaps there is a pattern set up in the heavens for one who desires to see it, and having seen it, to find one in himself." Thank you for watching. Please share with me your thoughts, subscribe, and press a like button, and I will be seeing you in a couple of days. The topic will not be astrology. Bye.